Hello and welcome to Concours Coach Conversations, the podcast for EU contractual staff who want to go permanent and thrive along the way. My name's Neil Urquhart and your host, and I'll be bringing you practical advice, real stories, and honest conversations to help you prepare for the internal competitions, to show up with clarity, confidence, and a little less stress. Whether it's mastering the case study, acing the oral presentation, or tackling the CBI, we'll cover it here, or we'll cover tips and tricks and strategies to help you overcome or work through those things. And if you're curious about how strong your presentation skills really are, take our free quiz at quiz.concourscoach.com. That's concours, the French word with an S, concourscoach.com. quiz.concourscoach.com. And I'm very happy to welcome today my guest, John Lewis. He is a coach, a trainer, a mental health ambassador, and self-described cool dude, though not necessarily that in that order. John's helped everyone from Olympic hopefuls to corporate teams get out of their own way and perform at their best. And he mixes deep expertise, down to earth honesty, as you'll see. And he's passionate about helping people shift their mindset, build resilience, and stay mentally fit, especially when the pressure's on. And that's something that you all out there can identify with. John, welcome to Conquer Coach Conversations. I've been really looking forward to this. How are you doing today?
Very well, mate. Thank you very much. Nice to wake up with you this morning, Neil.
You got your coffee?
Actually, it's a water. I've had my coffee this morning. I'm on the water now just to make sure the tubes are nice and lubricated. So yeah, I'm good to go, mate. I'm good to go. The day is upon us.
Yeah, fab. Okay, I had a number of questions that I buzzed your way, and I've asked my clients as well. So I've got a couple from them. Let's just see where's my list? I had it a moment ago. So, Yoel, is there anything you want to add to your introduction? Is there anything else that the people out there need to know?
No, I think you
Did I
summarised
nail
me
it?
quite well, Neil. Yeah. Yeah, just again, very much like you with what you do, Neil, very passionate about helping people, you know, perform their best, reach their potential in whatever their arena is. Yeah, and I think to do that, Neil, you've got to have a different approach because everybody's different, and what works for one person won't necessarily work for another person. So, when you can offer choice, it's then for the person to take that on board and think, okay, that bit worked for me, I'll take that, or that bit not so. And I think very much like you, Neil, that only comes with practice, that comes with experience. A lot of these things you can't, train. It just comes from the doing, getting things wrong, trying something new. Um, so yeah, again, that's when you're working with people now, more choices is more powerful. Having more in the toolbox to offer people it is obviously more powerful than just having a blanket approach, which might work for one person but not another.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But there's lots of some things will work for some people and they just won't work for others.
Hmm.
So my clients and potential clients or people out there in the audience, they are under a lot of pressure. They've got this big oral test just coming up. Sometimes they have written tests as well. And they're very consequential. That means that if they pass these tests, they get a permanent position. That's what they're aiming for. They're contractual staff at the moment, and they then have a fantastic career, a job for life, which are as rare as hen's teeth, as we like to say in the UK. It's
Hmm.
almost impossible to find those kind of jobs. They get a good salary. They get a great career in a prestigious organization, the European Commission, and then they end up having a good pension as well. So it's
Hmm.
really like they can really feel the pressure and they're up against their colleagues. So you've coached some Olympic hopefuls who perform under immense pressure. What techniques can candidates borrow from athletes to perform calmly and clearly with for example, a high stakes presentation, 5 minutes?
Mm. So I think the key was there how you kind of changed the wording, Neil. It was a case of, okay, we're in this pressured environment, but how do you want to feel? And you kind of answered it there. How do you perform, calmly and confidently? That's
Yeah.
kind of where the work needs to be done, because that environment, we can't control that environment, but what we can control is our state and the way we manage ourselves. So the first thing I'll say to an athlete or someone in business is, okay, how would you rather feel? And 9 times out of 10, Neil, it's calm or confident. And I'll say, okay, can you remember a time you felt calm or confident? And they'll say, well, I can. And then what we do is, Neil, we start tapping into that memory bank of times we felt calm and confident. Okay, where were you when you felt calm? Well, I remember I was on the beach, etc., etc. Okay, what did you hear when you were on the beach? Well, I heard the sound of the waves, for example. Okay, what did you see? Well, I saw the waves, I saw my children playing. And then automatically, Neil, we're taking, we're getting those neural pathways to kind of remember what it was like to feel calm.
Mm-hmm.
And what
So
we also
you're taking them
get
through like the sights, the sounds, the feelings, anything from the senses that they experienced at that time and bringing them back there. Yeah.
bringing it back there, Neil, because again, that seems to get all forgotten when we're in the pressured environment. All we're thinking is pressure, pressure, pressure. We forget to breathe as well, Neil, which is a
Oh yeah,
which
absolutely. I'm
you know
often talking about
and
that.
then what happens is we forget to breathe. Notice someone where they're feeling pressure or feeling anxious, Neil, the
Yeah,
breathing shallows. And then what happens when the
yeah,
breathing
absolutely.
shallows? We don't produce enough oxygen to the brain. We produce more of the stress hormone cortisol. So by purposely controlling our breathing, and again, I'm no breathing expert. However, I do have breathing techniques, which I do use with clients. Breathing in through your nose and through your nose for 5, hold for 5, breathe out through your mouth for 5. And while you're doing that, Neil, kind of remember those times you felt calm. Remember the time on the beach. What could you
Mm,
see?
mm,
How did it
yeah.
feel? What could you hear? And straight away, you're transforming your state.
Yeah, so you're combining the breathing also with a state management or putting yourself in that situation where you felt calm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. That's really good.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes when they're often asked questions after the presentation, and straight after the presentation, they're straight into 12 to 15 questions, one after another. Not quite machine gun fire, but really quickly, one answer a question, 2 minute answer, another question, another question. And sometimes candidates freeze or they go blank under the questioning. What what's a quick mental reset that you can share with us that they can use in the room if the nerves suddenly take over or if they're going
Hmm. So again, notice when the nerves take over and we feel the pressure now, we turn to internalize, we go into like a narrow focus.
yeah,
We become very insular in how we're thinking. The key with it is, Neil, is to put our focus externally.
uh-huh,
Okay. Same as in sport. And I'll tie this into sport because it was one of the things you said at the start. What can we learn from sports or Olympic people that we can bring in? Um, sometimes that's the difference between someone one in the world, Neil, compared to someone two or three. They know they're going to be under pressure, pressured environments. They know things aren't always going to go to plan, but it's how do we put these things behind us the quickest to then regain our focus?
yeah,
And it's the same with sports. Notice when a mistake happens, they're generally in twos because one is the genuine mistake. The second one is thinking about the mistake. So we're
mm,
kind of inside our mind. The key with it is, Neil, is to put our focus externally. So what I would say to one of your candidates is, again, if you're in a face-to-face meeting, find a spot on the wall. Okay. Even before you go into the meeting, find a spot on the wall, find something external that you can use as your external, focal trigger, if I can use that point. Okay. So then what happens is, when we might feel a bit flustered, Neil, and we're inside our self, and that self-talk is, you're feeling flustered, you're compounding the fact that you're feeling flustered. Put your focus out to this external point. So now your focus is external.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're doing that, just give yourself a nice countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And just breathe.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
what we're doing now is, again, we're kind of putting our focus external. So we're not, ruminating on things in our mind. So our focus is out. But what we're doing is, again, we're just kind of calming our state, Neil. And notice when our focus is out and we start calming our state, it just helps us regain a bit of clarity.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's really important, John. The sometimes what happens is, as you say, like there's the initial mistake, and then there's the reaction to the mistake,
Mm,
and sometimes people get really upset. They've maybe messed up a question, or they don't know the answer to the question, and they get really stressed about that. And then that messes up the next question because they're
mm.
still thinking about
Up the
the
question.
past one, the one that they just
Yeah.
messed up. Yeah, where they need to just let go.
Yeah.
Um,
And another way of doing that is just by physically taking a different step. So, for example, if I'm flustered in this spot, Neil, I've kind of anchored this feeling to this spot. So, what I'll
yeah,
say to someone in sports, etc., just take a small step forward. And as you step forward, say, I'm moving on.
yeah.
Okay. And then what you're doing is, Neil, you're kind of moving forward from that spot you've anchored as the problem spot, for example. By saying I'm moving on, it's kind of give mentally and physiologically just a different point to
Mm-hmm.
start again.
Yep. Okay. So I'm guessing, well, my candidates probably can't move because they'll be sat in a chair and like having an interview panel. But I guess they could just adjust their posture. They could adjust the way that they're sitting.
Yeah.
Maybe they could shift their seat slightly to the left or right, and that could
Yeah.
work as well.
And like you say, even the physiological sense in herself, Neil, notice when we're not feeling as confident, our
Yeah.
body, I'm showing you now, my body action changes. But when I can be in control of, what do they call it? The power pose, Neil, isn't it? By changing my physiological way, we're sending signals to our brain. Our body's linked, Neil. What we do here is going to impact the physiological sense, and vice versa. What we do physiologically is going to send signals to our brains.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. In terms of getting ready for the exam, it's going to be on one day. They they'll do the whole thing. It'll be about 40 to 45 minutes. It might be a little bit longer or a little bit less, but it's quite pressured. What pre-performance routines or rituals do you recommend for people walking into this consequential interview panel? Actually, it'll be virtual, but they'll,
Mm.
what would you recommend for them? What pre-interview routines would you recommend?
Again, there's several things I could say depending on what works with the person. I think the one that kind of springs to mind is that kind of mentally rehearsing the interview itself, Neil.
Right.
Now, we don't know what that interview is going to be like in real life, but your brain doesn't know that. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Okay, and I've even done it here, Neil. In a physical sense, where somebody's going into an exam. And what I've done is we've rearranged my office, even the desk my laptop's on. We've said, right, what we're going to do, rearrange this room so it looks like, through your mind's eye, this is how your, exam room's going to look.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we've done is, Neil, we've kind of walked through the process of, okay, so what happens? I come through the door, I'm going to walk this way round, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to take a breath here, and we've almost kind of uh, rehearsed the exam itself. We don't just do it once, Neil. We do it several times. And even when the client leaves, I say, go home and practice this. Do this several times a day. Because then when it comes to that actual time of the exam, Neil, even though we don't know specifically what it's going to look like, our brain's going to go, oh, okay, I recognize this. This isn't so unfamiliar. Because I think that's what it is with exams, Neil, a lot of the time. It's that familiarity.
Familiarity.
Thank you, Neil. We'll take that one about the environment and how it's going to look itself.
Right.
You know, and once you get to that state management against Neil, and again, if your interview's online, practice walking up to your interview, open your laptop, just kind of, you know, practice sitting there and, you know, imagining people on the screen. Because then when it comes to the day, Neil, your brain is going to find it a little bit more familiar.
Mm, mm, right. So
Have you
that
ever
first
seen?
bit.
I'll tell you what, Neil. Here's a perfect example of the Blue Angels, the aircraft display team.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Okay, I would advise you and any of your clients to watch those guys. Now, bearing in mind they're flying planes at 700 miles per hour and the wingtips are like this, so it's a different kind of scenario. But
Yeah.
watch these
That's high pressure.
guys.
Yeah.
Exactly, these guys are performing under pressure, and it could be between life and death. Go watch these guys, Neil, doing their mental rehearsal. It's amazing watching it, and they're all sat around this boardroom table, and they are, you know, you've got the lead pilot calling out all the actions, and you see the guys visualizing they're in their uh, I was going to say spaceship, not spaceship, aircraft, doing all the control panels. You see them pressing the buttons. They're doing this all around a boardroom now.
Yeah. 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 I think I've seen a quick clip of that. Yeah. So it's like rehearsing for success, putting yourself in the right frame of mind to succeed by practicing success,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah, and even, you know, God forbid these guys do it, because obviously, you know, like I say, 700 miles per hour, etc.
Yeah.
Also prepare for if things don't go right.
Mm,
So
yeah.
open the laptop. Okay, something's happened here that's not gone to plan. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just focus on taking my breath. I'm going to focus on just getting back to feeling calm. Okay, now I'm back in. So you're kind of practicing, you know, all different scenarios.
Yeah, yeah. I think I sometimes tell this story to my clients about, oh, I've forgotten his name, Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
And he used to, or maybe still does, he visualized success, um, which a lot of athletes do. But one of the things he did that maybe set him apart from many other athletes was he also visualized when things went wrong,
Mm,
not to embed them or make them more likely to happen,
mm,
but what would happen, how he still succeeded even if things went wrong. So, for example, water going in the goggles, which swimmers absolutely hate, but still winning. And so he would still visualize those kind of things. So yeah, I think that really works.
good.
Um, okay, so they all have to um, yeah, so they manage success, they imagine success. They can also imagine when things go wrong, but still succeeding. Like
Yeah.
sometimes there are technical problems that they experience, and this is really can freak them out because they've got this exam and the thing's not working, and suddenly everything's not working, despite preparing for it, and it's not their fault. But yeah, I can really help them to stay calm.
Mm,
Okay. Um, Also, they have, right, they'll be asked questions, and sometimes they might feel like, oh, this person's out to get me, or they're asking me this deliberately tough question. What what mindset can help candidates see tough questions or as opportunities rather than threats, so they don't sort of react defensively?
mm. I guess you know, again, when these questions come quick fire, Neil, it's, you know, we don't know what's going to be asked, do we?
Yeah.
You know, you can almost see it in an audience, Neil. As soon as someone's done their talk and someone says, right, we're going to open the floor now to questions, you see the person on the panel going, oh God, here we go. You know, I would say, you know, curiosity, Neil.
Mm, mm.
I don't know, you know, you ever seen a mood elevator? You used it in
What's a mood
leadership?
elevator?
Or the mood elevator. Maybe that's something for you to kind of look at. So
Investigate. Yeah.
basically, the mood elevator is good. It's brilliant in a team dynamic, kind of understanding different moods, okay, and how it can impact then the I guess the cohesive or even the you know, the team. morale, team culture. It's kind of understanding, okay, when I'm in this kind of mood, how then could that be perceived by other people? And basically, not that moods are good or bad, but it's from the bottom we've got moods that probably aren't as facilitating in a team environment, all the way up the top. So we've got the top mood, which is joy.
Mm.
Okay. And then we come down from joy, we've got, sense of humor, da da da. But right in the middle of the elevator, so floor 0 is curiosity.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And it's by being curious, Neil, it kind of takes us out of that kind of feeling too down or feeling too up, because sometimes it's nigh on impossible to feel joy because we're human beings, Neil, and we don't feel great all the time.
Yeah.
But flip side of that, we don't all feel depressed all the time. We got this whole
Range. Yeah.
range, yeah. And right in the middle of that is that curiosity, Neil.
Mm.
So, if we're going into these scenarios where, okay, this guy's out to get me, or this guy's out to, be more curious. Okay, what is this? How can this question help me in my career? Or how can this question, how can this question make me seem like I'm giving a kind of good impression?
Yeah. Or
Rather,
what's this question about? How's
yeah,
it trying to, what's it trying to draw out of me, and how could I help them see what I see? Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So that kind of curiosity, being curious in ourselves, being curious in the question rather than, oh, this guy's out to get me,
Mm.
because that's not going to help. Because what's going to happen to your state then, Neil?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're
That's
back into that pressured state, aren't we? Where, if we again can feel calm and we can breathe and we can just take that second to get back in our feeling confident or calm, but then go with that mindset of curiosity. Okay, what is this question trying to
right.
teach me?
So even although they wouldn't necessarily respond, why are you asking me?
Yeah,
Why are you asking me that question? Then
yeah,
they can still be internally curious, or try to have that state of curiosity. Okay, great.
yeah.
Yeah, I really
Because
like
remember,
that.
we spend more time in here, Neil, than we do, answering these questions. Before a
Mm.
question's asked, Neil, we're playing all these scenarios, and it's okay. How do we, what's the quickest way I can just kind of regain my thinking in order to enable me to give the best answer I can to this question?
Yeah, I mean, I work a lot with candidates on answering questions, but sometimes it gets to the stage, or it's often a stage that they need to get past, where they over rehearse and they start sounding stiff. What advice would you give them then to be more authentic?
Hmm. Again, in pressured environments, whether that's in business, whether that's in sport, when we feel pressured now, I think our thinking speeds up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That
Yeah.
fight or flight's kicking in. We're kind of speeding up with our
Yeah.
thinking. What we need to do is, Neil, and I'm purposely doing it now. Whenever I'm on a podcast, I need to slow down my thinking. I need
Mm.
to slow down the way I talk. I'm still John. I'm still authentic. I'm still got my farmer accent, Neil. Um, but away from the
Probably
podcast,
most
it's
people, if
like,
you listen to this, won't be able to identify it,
in
but West
fact,
Country, a little bit of West Country.
you should have put that at the start. Cool dude, that's self-proclaimed, and farmer.
And farmer, right?
But again, I think we get too kind of embroiled in the situation, which it is, because for you and your candidates, Neil, this is for them possibly the biggest thing that
This thing,
they're going to do in their
often,
life.
I'm talking a lot about it. I'm saying it's when I'm talking about it, I say like it's training for it's your Olympic final.
Mm,
It's your Olympic final.
yeah, I would say that just slow down your thinking.
Yeah. Mm.
Just slow down,
So
and by
slow down
slowing
speed of
down,
speech. What when you say slow down your thinking, how could they do that? What's a physical or mental trick that they can help them to slow down? What's
just kind of again.
helping you? Like,
Yeah, so I'll tell you what's helping me, Neil, is by actually focusing on my voice and its speed. So I'm putting my focus again externally.
yeah.
Um, you know, again, I trust the words are going to follow, Neil.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, same as your candidates. You
yeah,
do all that work,
yeah.
trust yourself, trust all the hours that you've been doing of prep work, trust what you've been doing with them, Neil, so it becomes unconscious. Sometimes when we're consciously thinking about what we're saying, that's then when we become robotic. That's when we become somebody we're not, because we're more focused on what we're saying rather than how we're saying it and how we're and how we're being.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I guarantee for your clients, Neil, or people going for those roles, they've not just been chosen for their, expertise. They've been chosen because no doubt they're the right people to fulfill their role. So that's not just about the how clever people are. That's about your authenticity has got you this far in the first place, as you won't be having the interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like it's a success. Like these folks, they have been working really hard. In fact, for many of them, this started last year, this process. They had their written exams in March, but they were preparing for them. I started working with some people back in August last year, for this
Wow.
particular set of
So
exams,
yeah.
and the ones who, they did the written exam, they have they're now ready for, there's a multiple choice questionnaire, there's a written exam, all took place on the same day, I think, or maybe I'm forgetting. But
Mm,
anyway, they did those two things, and then now they're up for this final stage of the presentation and oral tests. Yeah, so it's a long old slog.
brilliant.
um what Sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say another kind of technique. I'm giving away all the secrets here, Neil, aren't
It's shh, don't tell anyone.
I? This isn't going out public, is it?
No, no, no.
So, again,
Just us, just the two of
just me and you having a chat. What was the record button at the start, Neil? I saw that.
us.
Again, when we get caught in our minds, especially when we're going into these like you say, your Olympic final,
Mm,
as you said to your candidates, again, we do get stuck in our thinking, Neil, which then kind of takes away from who we are and why
mm.
we're been chosen in the first place. So another technique I use, and I've got one in the office now. I don't know if this is going to go out as video
Yep.
or just
Keep the
podcast
chair there.
is,
Yeah.
is the chair. I'm sat on one, so I'll sit on one, a client to sit on the other if we're doing a face-to-face session. And what I'll do with the client is they can sit on one chair and I say, okay, imagine you're looking at you in that empty chair.
Mm,
Okay. Tell me about you. Because what we do is when we're kind of visually looking out, Neil, again, we're taken away from being in our own mind. It's okay, if you're sat in that chair, tell me why you have got this opportunity.
right. So what's brought you to this point?
Yeah, rather than me just thinking in my own brain, okay, tell me what have I, by again putting our focus external and focusing on, I've got a whiteboard here, so I might do it with a client. I'll draw a silhouette of a person. I'll say, okay, I don't want to know about your skills in interviewing. Tell me about you.
Mm,
You
hmm.
know, we need to remember who we are now and
That's
at
our
the core of it.
identity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The roles that we play, the identity that we have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What are my skills? What are my strengths? Even before the interview, why have I been chosen to
Yeah.
have this
I
be
mean,
a candidate?
to get into the European Commission, is many people, thousands of people apply, and they don't get in. So
Mm,
just to be even in the position of interviewing for a permanent position is amazing. It's
mm,
already success. Okay, great. I'm really loving this. Let's
good.
continue. So yeah, that I guess other things I'm thinking about, like stress management, or because stress tends to drain their energy fast. What advice would you give them on managing mental, physical energy during preparation week and on the exam
Mm,
day itself?
mm. I would say, how would you
Now,
rather
some
feel?
clients, for example, I'm talking to some clients who said, I'm going to take 10 days off before the
Mm,
exam, or I'm going to take 2 weeks off before the exam, or a week off.
mm.
What advice would you give them on managing mental and physical energy during that time?
Yeah. Well, again, I would ask him now, well, how do you want to feel for these next few days, weeks, however it is? How do you want to feel? It's okay, me saying, okay, what you need to do is let's get the basics right, Neil. Sleep, diet, uh, all the fundamental things that we know are good for us. Gosh, we should be doing them in our abundance anyway, Neil. Okay, so let's not forget the fundamentals here of what we need to be doing just to keep ourselves mentally and physically at our best. Okay,
Yep.
exercise for me. I'm a runner now. Running is my therapy. Yeah, if I was to say to one of your clients, "I'll just go for a 10-mile run," they might say, "Well, I don't want to go for a run."
That's
So I
all.
say, "Okay, what do you like to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
What works for you? If
Mm.
you want to feel calm or relaxed, okay, what works for you?" Because again, I think when we get in this mindset, um, or people get in this mindset of, okay, I'm that week, I just need to cram in as much more revision as I can. I just need to cram everything in it. And then they go into these exams now, or these situations, just feeling overwhelmed, tired, stressed because they've not taken the time to actually, look after themselves.
Yeah.
It's like we almost put ourselves to the bottom of the pile, Neil. And we all do. We're all guilty of, we're too busy kind of thinking of everyone else and servicing everyone else that we say, oh, I haven't got time to look after myself. But the
Yeah. I think
truth of the
that's
matter
really
is,
easy to do. That's really
yeah.
easy to do. Like it's especially it becomes like putting a lot of pressure on yourself. I think I didn't realize how important it was in the past. I know now how important it is that week and even the lead up that you still look after yourself, that you still you're not staying up until midnight the night before the exam studying and putting yourself under a lot of pressure.
Mm,
It's just not gonna it's just not going to work. It's just not going to end well because
no.
they're putting themselves under so much pressure because it seems so consequential. Um, the stakes feel life changing, job for life, pension, security. How can they detach from that pressure and focused on delivering their best in the moment?
Mm, I guess kind of staying present, Neil.
Yeah.
Staying present. Because again, when we think of all the shiny things and we think about the future and we think about the past, we're everywhere, but here now. And it's
Hmm.
obviously here now that determines what we do in the future.
Hmm. So
So
being present. Yeah.
being present, what steps do I need to take today? And it's great, I would say to people, how, we need to understand, okay, to detach from the present, from the future, what do we want in the future? So we know the goals, what are our necessary steps to achieve that in the future? But, what do I need to do today?
Hmm.
Because ultimately, like I say, Neil, the future is a perception. It hasn't, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. The future does not exist.
It's only now that we can really perceive.
That's it. Our reality, yours and my reality, Neil, unless you're a recording, um, is you and me sat here on this Zoom. This is the reality.
Yeah.
And again, by me focusing on you and focusing on today and the things that I need to do today, I'm not, I've detached from the past, I've detached from the future because my focus is on the here and now.
Yeah. So staying present. I encourage my clients to do things like sense the ground through their feet
Hmm.
because it's not just like, oh, some kind of mental projection about your feet or knowing, oh yeah, my feet are touching the ground. It's no, which parts of my feet are touching the ground, like which parts of my feet are not touching the ground, and actually sensing the ground or sensing the chair that you're sitting on or your clothes on your skin, because that brings you back to this present moment out of the fear of the future, because usually it's that a fear which I call false expectation appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
You can steal that one if you want to.
That's an Ian Brown song, isn't it? F E
Yeah,
A
exactly.
R.
Exactly. It's from Ian Brown. I stole it from him. Ian Brown, former lead singer of the Stone Roses, who some of the older listeners might know of. um, he wrote this song called FEAR. You should definitely look
Yeah.
it up. But I think it's so true. Like being here in the present moment takes you out of all this future worry and helps you be present. And then paradoxically, well, not paradoxically, but you
Yeah,
perform
yeah,
better.
yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're in there. Great. That's really good too. I think that's something that I just asked my clients this morning what they wanted to ask you, and some of them unfortunately didn't pass the written test for various reasons. They didn't go through to the next round, but they'll probably be back next year. Well, I say next year, I mean that the next version of this test is probably going to, or these tests is going to start again, probably in
Mm,
November, December this year. What they need to bounce back. What's your advice for bouncing back, for mentally recovering when and maintaining their motivation? So if they haven't done well, they didn't pass, how can you maintain your motivation and preserve yourself through these different professional bumps and cracks and along the way?
mm. First and foremost, pat yourself on the back for how far you've come.
Yeah,
Again, I think we get into this kind of mindset of, well, I failed, it was all for nothing.
yeah,
The truth is there is no failure, only feedback. Like you've just said, Neil, the opportunity could be there again to however that looks, to go for it again. Next time they'll be coming from a lot more experience.
yeah, yeah.
Feedback is key, Neil, in anything, whether we're in sports, whether in business, feedback is key. And I think some people are scared for feedback because, again, they see it as criticism.
Mm, mm,
Where if we're curious about the feedback, going back to curiosity, it puts us in a different state, but it also makes us curious into, okay, well, what could I do differently next time?
yeah,
Or, okay, what didn't go so well?
mm,
Because then we have, like, again, a foundation to build on. Okay, well, I know this didn't go well, so or didn't go as well as expected, so I know I can, put some time and attention here.
yeah.
Or this went well, okay. Success kind of leaves clues as well, Neil.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this went well. Well, what was it about that went well that I can take and reuse? For some people, we get stuck in it. We just focus on the things that didn't go well.
Yeah,
It's okay. What can we learn from the things that didn't go well, but also what can we learn from the things that did go well? And actually, can we implement things that from the did go well into the things that didn't go well?
mm, yeah. So it might have been like an attitude, a good attitude at certain point. Maybe they felt confident during the presentation, and that is an attitude that they could take into the interview. Maybe they got, like, for example, they might have got a topic that they know really well and they felt very comfortable. And then in
Hmm.
the interview, they were a bit more stressed and a bit more stiff because they didn't know what to expect, and therefore their performance suffered a little bit.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
they might have not looked after themselves on that week leading into nil. They might have
yeah,
crammed in too much,
yeah, yeah,
and also kind of model what worked well for others. And again, it's not that they have the
mm,
answers, but,
yeah,
people might have different ideas that you can use in your next approach.
yeah.
I just love the term. There's no feedback. Sorry, no feedback. There's
No
no
failure.
failure, only feedback.
Yeah, yeah. An old trainer of mine, when I was being trained in sales skills many years ago, back in the noughties, he used to say, "You either win or you learn,"
Mm,
and I think that's a similar. Yeah, there's no failure. There's only feedback. Yeah,
mm.
I I think those of you out there who might not have succeeded this time, then I think that's you can't do anything about that, but you can choose to learn the lessons from this time, not in a negative beating yourself up way, but really just to review, try to sort of dispassionately or neutrally, like that sense of curiosity you talk about, John. Yeah, and
Hmm.
you're like, what went well, and what could you do better or differently next time?
Yeah.
Those are the questions that I use.
And I think even kind of what you've just said there, you
Yeah,
choose to do it.
yeah,
Everything's a choice, and sometimes it doesn't seem like it's a choice, but everything we do is a choice. And the fact you beat yourself up over it, and I'm not saying not to, Neil, we're human beings. I don't come in this with all my life sorted and my mindset's great all the time. I'm human. I need to implement all this stuff as well.
yeah.
The fact that you beat yourself up over it tells you something in itself.
Mm,
That you're disappointed. Well, you're human. You're bound to be. Um, Secondly, things didn't possibly go as well as you wanted to. We're human beings as well, Neil. We have a
yeah,
whole range of emotions, but it's okay. Do I want to be stuck in this emotion? Okay. And again, going back to the first question, right? I've had this time I've beaten myself up. Right now, how do I want to feel?
yeah.
How do I choose to feel now? So we're kind of moving from feeling like this, we're moving uh, through curiosity.
It's those TH sounds you're struggling with today, John.
Shall I put my teeth in? We've been doing this for 48 minutes. Maybe I should put my teeth in now, Neil. So moving from feeling that way, which is human, you're bound to
Yeah,
feel like that. Like you say, you've worked so hard. And that's a clue in itself to how much it means to you. But then move through curiosity, and this might take days, this might take weeks, Neil. It's not like, right,
mm,
I'm peed off right now, all of a sudden I'm calm.
yeah,
Move through curiosity, okay, to then, okay, well, how now do I want to feel? Okay, I want to feel calm now, I want to feel relaxed, okay, and then it kind of gives you that starting point again with the feedback,
yeah,
with things that went well, with things that didn't go well. You've now got a foundation to build on
yeah.
moving forward.
Yeah, I have to say this to people who are taking the taking the test for the second or third time is that it's not like they're starting from scratch. They've got that experience, even although they might not recognize it or be aware of it, they do have that experience from the first time. Even if it didn't go well, they can use for the second time if they ask the right questions and sort of connect with that experience from the past, that you can learn something from it. Yeah. Good, good. I'm getting near the end of my questions for you, but what kind of things do you do, John, on a daily basis? You told me that you run. You told me that you that's one of the things you do as a simple daily habit to build
Mm.
resilience. What other things do you personally do to help you build resilience or maintain wellness?
Yeah. Like I say, running is my therapy, Neil, not just for what it does chemically for the brain, scientifically proven, exercise is effective as, medication for certain levels of mental health, etc. So I know the benefits, but also with that, Neil, it keeps me present
Yeah.
because I don't take my phone.
Mm,
It's just me in the world. So me, running has always been, my not even my go-to, something I've kind of implemented as as consistently as I brush my teeth. So running is something I'm an advocate of. I'm a family man. I love hanging out with my kids and my pug. She was here a minute ago. Now she's
That's a dog for those of you who does a pug or
oh,
dog. Yeah.
a
Those
dog.
of you
Yeah,
who
very.
don't know what a pug is. Yeah. It's a small dog with a face. Like this.
Yeah, and apparently they look like their owners, Neil.
Yeah.
And just for the interest of you guys, if you can't see this, I'm 7 foot tall with lots of hair. But you know what, mate? I
Yeah.
live probably like you, Neil.
Mm,
Life is a million miles per hour. It is a
yeah.
million miles per hour.
Yeah.
Work. Fortunately, I love what I do. Well, not fortunately, I created this life. I created this professional life because it's it's what I
It's what you
wanted.
love
So,
doing, right?
sorry.
It's what you love doing.
Exactly. So, anything we've said to your potential clients today, you can create your future. It's then how you are resilient, enabling yourself to do that.
Yeah.
running my own business, I come up against hurdles all the time. Through the past years, I come up against hurdles. But do you know what? If that goal is so shiny, if I don't just mean financially, if that goal is just so shiny and it just connects with you so deeply, you'll find a way of doing that. And if that means, resitting your exams, like we were saying earlier, Neil, you'll find a way. If it means, you know, stumbling over your words, but then regaining your train of thought, you'll find ways to do it. You'll find ways to do it if you really want something enough. And ironically, Neil, my daughter's just done her GCSEs. We get her results.
Those are sort of exams you do around about 16 years old. They're the ones before you do the last exams at school in the UK. They're called GCSEs. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So thank you for that. Yeah.
Translating for my
Yeah.
international audience. Yeah.
My boy's off to university. And again, so I'm kind of in the thick of this in a personal sense as well as watching my two children going through these processes themselves. And my daughter she was very one of them, Neil, where 24 hours she would just focus on the exams. And I would say to her, Ivy Lou, you need to rest. You need to take your eyes off. You need to take a
Yeah,
break from this. You need to go for a walk. Think of it all as part of the process of revision.
yeah,
You need to be looking, because ultimately you're the vehicle that's going to go into that. She's not a vehicle. She's not a lorry or anything. She's a young girl. You're the person that's got to go into this exam room feeling your best, and it's feeling your best, Neil, to go into this room to be able to give your best. Because you might have all the answers, Neil, but if you're tired and stressed and your thoughts are clouded, it means nothing.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I actually I'm getting questions in now. I thought I'd set my phone to do not disturb, but some are popping up. I think that's really important though. Like tired, avoid, being well rested and being relatively calm on the day just increases your chances of performing close to your abilities much, much more. Like you're able to just be more spontaneous and think
Hmm.
through your answers and feel like you got time instead of like, like you're rushed and like
Yeah.
no time.
Yeah.
One the question I just got through, how to get from fear mindset to flow mindset, how to trust in being spontaneous. I don't know if we've sort of covered that with like the like where the external spot on the wall and
Hmm.
is there anything else that you would add to that?
Hmm. Well, I would ask, well, what's the difference? When you're in that flow mindset, say, have you ever been in that flow mindset?
Mm,
Because whoever's asked that question, they must understand the difference, Neil, because they're the one who's asked the question. Well, how do I get through fear? So they
yeah,
must understand fear and what kind of emotions and how that feels to then
yeah,
flow mindset. And I would say, can you remember a time you were in flow mindset?
yeah. Uh-huh.
Because when you ask yourself a question, Neil, your brain has to think of the answer, and it ironically, but you know everything we have, we've all got this reality, we've all got this amazing computer that can be our biggest friend and our biggest hindrance,
Yeah.
and it's about recognizing, okay, if I don't want to be in this fear mindset and I want to be in this flow mindset, well, what's the difference?
Mm, mm,
What is it like when I'm in this flow mindset? What is it like? When was the last time I was in this flow mindset?
mhm.
And it's kind of channeling our thoughts to, okay, what is, what is flow mindset? Not just in mindset, but how, what do I believe about myself when I'm in flow mindset?
Well, that's a nice one. Yeah.
Yeah. Why is it important for me to be in this flow mindset? Because then what we're doing is, Neil, we're kind of building up this whole kind of package into, okay, this is what a flow mindset is. What kind of emotions? When I'm in flow mindset, you know, what sensations do I get? Because it's like I say, Neil, it's a mindset. It's not a reality. It's a mindset. And the more we can understand what this mindset is and how I feel and times I felt like this, then I'm more able to enable myself to get into this mindset.
Yeah, yeah. Good. John, it's been really good having a chat with you today and hearing about your experiences and your thoughts and on in these high pressure situations. If there's a sort of final message for the people out there who are about to take an exam, what would it be?
Okay. Something I always say to any athlete I work with or any leader, anybody in business before they go into a high pressure situation, I would never say good luck, because when you say good luck, it's like you're leaving it to chance.
Right.
I will say be brilliant.
Ah, nice. I like it.
Be brilliant, because then I'm taking control. When we say good luck, it's,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like external factors may help or hinder the fact that I'm going to be lucky or not. When I
Right.
say be brilliant,
Yeah.
it's internal, be brilliant.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, John. Thanks for turning up today and sharing your wisdom. That's it for this episode of Conqueror Coach Conversations. I hope you found it helpful and more than a little bit inspiring too. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, please share it with a colleague, or leave a review. It really helps us reach more EU staff like you and help you succeed, and help them succeed. Thanks for listening and see you next time.
Be brilliant.
Thanks, John.